and welcome to the Big Three podcast with Adarsh and Adam. Today we are going to discuss on a lot of different topics, and our first topic is obviously the England versus Pakistan test that happened just a few days back. So England won the test by an innings and 47 runs, and it was Pakistan being Pakistan more than anyone could imagine, honestly. I'll get on to the details later, but first of all, good morning, Adam, and what did you make of it?
Morning, Adarsh, and happy birthday as well.
Yeah,
I
thank
think
you.
it's all right. I think it was one of those games where, like you said, Pakistan. A lot of people, a lot of Pakistan fans, I noticed on Twitter, were worried about this actually happening even before it actually happened, and you could see that once England had batted out the end of the second day, and they were like 90 for one. You
Yeah,
could sense even then Pakistan fans were kind of panicking, and it was two things really. It was one, the good side of Bazball, which is a game that would have been a draw years ago. England managed to win by overtaking Pakistan at such a high rate, but also showed the vulnerability of Pakistan, and also in a sense where people, when you're on a losing streak, it's like a habit, just like winning,
yes,
and your confidence really suffers. And and normally when a side someone's just got 800, you think, well, we can easily bat out four sessions, but you get self doubt and your confidence goes, and you start to panic. And I think that's what happened, really.
yeah. I thought we were watching the Multan Grand Prix. I didn't think it was a cricket match. Yeah, and I think the first day, I think we all expected, at least I did, that it'll break down, and I think Pakistan did too, which is why they took a more conservative approach throughout their first innings. If you see, both of England and Pakistan both batted around 150 overs, but England got 300 or so runs more than Pakistan. I
Yeah,
think that's the main difference, which Shan Masood in the press conference after the game was talking about, where till till Abdullah Shafiq and Shan Masood, Pakistan were going at four and a half, five
yeah,
and runs and over. After that, Babar and Saud came in, and they just, honestly, that was stat padding batting, nothing
yeah,
more than that, because Saud Shakil, he scored at 46.32, and I do not think that in that sort of a pitch you can afford to score that slowly. And after that, Salman Agha did provide a bit of a boost to Pakistan's batting, but ultimately, I think if they were somewhere around 700, 750, then they'd have a better chance of maybe, say, getting England out at 700, 650, somewhere around that. I
yeah,
think uh, the extra hours didn't which they had spent in the field because of England scoring 823, which was because of the fact that they didn't have enough runs that cost them in the innings later on. And England, I would say that, well, Ollie Pope had a bit of an outing, didn't he?
yeah,
Uh, I think, yeah. So England feasted on that pitch, and
yeah.
Joe Root did what Joe Root does. I was just watching Babar Azam standing there. He scored 30, and then after that, he dropped two catches in that
Mm,
game. I just think that Babar Azam is a perfect reflection of where Pakistan cricket
mm.
is at right now, because they are they are just down from every possible corner you can imagine, preparing pitches which make for absolute dull fests and performing just like that.
That's a very good point. I mean, there's kind of three things I picked up from what you're saying there. You're spot on about the pitch looking like it might deteriorate. There were like cracks in it, and so if you if you factor that into your mind and think the pitch will deteriorate, you think 550, however quickly that we get it, will be like a winning score. The pitch will deteriorate, they're batting last, and we can win. But
Yeah,
then it didn't deteriorate at all. So it was just like a big road. Um, and with Babar Azam, he it's he looked so good a few years ago. I know there's been a lot of people saying, well, he never really was that good anyway, or whatever. But I
that's
thought he looked
wrong.
really good.
That's just wrong.
Yeah, because I thought he looked good 2 years ago.
Yeah, he was really good because, well, he averaged around 65,
Yeah,
2021, 2022. That's just, you cannot live in denial. I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying that, well, he was never very good and he always scores against bad teams, but he scored a 70 odd in South Africa in seeming conditions. He was good in Australia, really good in England in
Yeah,
2020, and yeah, he scored everywhere, and he was the player of the tournament. For me in the 2021 T20 World Cup, and
certainly. I mean, that in that tournament, it was quite funny, really, because I think England and Pakistan were the two best sides, and they were meant to get to the final, but they both lost in the semi. And then the following year, when they played less well, they actually got to the final. If you recall that. And but so yeah, he was brilliant in that T20 2021 tournament. It beat India, didn't he? Beat New Zealand. They were just going like a train in their group, and then they lost to Australia in the semis. I think they'd say it was kind of because of the dew, but whatever the reason, he was brilliant in that tournament. And I think it's a bit like I kind of kind of jaundicing history a bit to say, I mean, he was never good in the first place or whatever. I think there must be you pointed to a technical reason last week that Jared Kimber had spotted about his batting, but there must be something, and there must also be like a psychological issue that he's not, for some reason, he's not happy in the side. I don't know if it's because they keep dropping him as captain of the white ball side or whatever, but there's something there.
yeah, obviously, because their management is not stable. Nothing about Pakistan cricket is stable because there's talk of Shan Masood being sacked before the next test match. So it's just out of the winds, really. You cannot expect a player to be scoring runs when you have a new coach and a new uh, chairman every 2 months. So yeah, that definitely has a part to play in this, and that's why I make a plea to all Pakistan fans: please do not go and abuse him all day long, because he's a human at the end of the day, and I really don't like to see someone who's actually a good person, and I have seen him that he's people in India make him out to be an arrogant person, but he's not. And I just make a plea, just please treat him like a human. Yes, he's going through a bad patch, but he will come back again. Now, coming on to Pakistan spinners, I think Abrar, he looked lackluster, honestly,
Yeah,
because yeah, if you're not getting any purchase, you're expected to at least get. You should be consistent. You should go at 3 fours and over. How much did he go for? Let me just check. He went for he went for 5 runs and over, and that's for
in a
40
test match.
overs. Yeah, in 40 overs, going for 5 runs and over, that's just ridiculous, isn't it? And after that, you had Shaheen Shah Afridi and Naseem
Yeah,
Shah bowling 30 overs each.
yeah,
Naseem Shah did look good to me. At the
yeah,
end of the day, he was swinging it a little.
yeah.
Shaheen looked. Amir Jamal honestly was a standout for me because he showed some resilience in that Pakistan lineup which I hadn't seen before.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with the Bra, he actually ended up getting injured in the end, and he got a fever maybe, and he was in hospital for the last 2 days. But eh, I don't think it made a difference because he was bowling badly the first couple of days. Um, yeah, I think that the seamers did okay. I suppose if it's such a flat pitch, and England are playing in a one-day well, they were playing less. I suppose England didn't I think they actually hit less sixes than Pakistan did. So what was impressive about Root and Brook was the ones and twos they were running all the time. So maybe they refined things a bit. They weren't just. It wasn't like that one against New Zealand a few years ago, um, where they just smashed a 550 in double quick time. This was more less boundary orientated and more kind of good, clever running between the wickets. What did you think?
Yeah, you're correct on that. I think that boils down to two issues, three issues actually. First of all, it's the skill which plays a major part. Second is their well their temperament because uh, well, if you see Pakistan in the second innings, what happened to them? They capitulated for whatever 82 for six, whereas
Yeah,
England, as you said, they kept on like scoring ones and twos, and whereas South Shakil, people like that, they were just bogged down in one, and when the ball wasn't doing much they weren't able to rotate the strike as they should have. Like people like Babar Azam, you expect him to be able to like maneuver the gaps and score at around a run a ball in this pitch, like how Harry Brook did, but he
yeah,
couldn't. And Salman Ali Agha did kind of do that, but apart from that, and Shan Masood earlier on, apart from that, no one did much. Even Naseem Shah, honestly, people were criticizing him, but I thought for a tail ender, he was not too bad in that innings.
Um, yeah, I thought so. I think how much in this game do you give England credit for coming back from the Pakistan's first innings and surpassing it, and then managing to bowl them out, and how much is it a case of Pakistan almost committing suicide at the end? What would you say?
I think it's more of Pakistan committing
Mm,
suicide
yeah,
because at late day four, I'd accept that the pitch was cracking up and with the new ball it was doing all sorts back then, but it was not unplayable. It was something
no,
which you encounter in any country. You go to England, you will face
mm,
more. It'll be harder to face the first day than there was in the fourth day or whatever.
yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah,
true.
and they just looked like first ball. I saw the first ball like Abdullah Shafiq's stance,
Mm.
and he just got out. And from that moment on, you just knew that they will capitulate that day, and that's what
And
they
also,
exactly.
Masood was dropped twice, wasn't he, before he was out?
Yeah, and that was the whole theme of their innings. It didn't even, it felt expected in a sense, like how that Bangladesh game panned out. I don't know if
Mm.
you saw it.
Yeah,
They
I
were
saw a bit. Yeah,
they were 27 for 6, and
yeah,
after that they just scored whatever 300, 400, something like that, and it was like this time. Whereas England, I think, yeah, for batting out 2 days in the heat
mm,
in 40 degrees whatever, that was really good from
mm,
both of Root and Harry Brook, and
mm,
they need they deserve to be commended for that. But
mm.
Pakistan just shoot themselves in the foot, and we can't deny that.
'Cause it's funny when you see a wicket on TV, you think, "Oh, that looks amazing." So Wokes' wicket, and there was a wicket Cars got, the one that clean bowled someone. I can't remember who he clean bowled. And at first you think, "Oh, brilliant," and then you look at it again and go, "Whoa, the batsman could have done something there. It wasn't really an unplayable ball. Maybe they were set up wrong, or they were tired, or whatever." But they weren't like really magic deliveries. They just looked it on TV on first sight. And if you thought that,
Yeah, they were just like that. I'll take the example of the Yeah, I'll take the example of the Babar Azam dismissal. If you saw the ball, it hit, who bowled that? I think Braden Cars bowled that, and it seemed as
yeah,
if it seemed away a little bit in the second innings. But
yeah,
if you actually look at the trajectory, it was just a 0.2 degree or something like that
mm.
movement, and that didn't really make a difference. It was just the fact that they were drained after fielding for 2 days and all that, and that led to them being like that at the end of.
Although that was the second time he was kind of deceived in that match, because the first innings, I think the end of the first day, Wokes did something similar to him, didn't he? Maybe it's an England plan.
Yeah, he was just tired at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
yeah,
Yeah, they just bowled. He set him up. People were saying that, I saw a really funny tweet. So someone tweeted that Naseem Shah was bowling. Oh, that was Babar Azam. You remember that catch which he dropped? So someone tweeted that Naseem Shah was bowling at 140 kilometers per hour, and Joe Root hit the shot at 74 kilometers per hour. So it came at 214 kilometers per hour, and no human could have ever caught that. It was genuinely hilarious how people, what lengths people go to defend him. So yeah,
that's quite funny.
yeah, and that was how people were trying to say, like, Woke set him up, all that. But that's professional cricket. That's top level cricket. You will get set up. You have to counter with that. And Pakistan just couldn't do that at the end. And I think at the fourth day, like, their pacers, they were there's a guy called Mir Hamza, and I think they should have played him because uh, he brings in a left arm angle, and Pakistan chase quick bowlers, but
Yeah,
he bowls around 125, 130, a bit like Ollie Robinson, and
yeah.
he swings it really well, and he hits a nice length, and he will give you 40 overs a day.
No, but I did hear that he was going to come into the squad. I don't know if they haven't announced a team yet, obviously, but I did hear about him. And who's the guy who is he the nephew of there's some a big player's nephew. I don't know. It could have been like me and Dad's nephew, or or Malik's nephew. Someone who's been talked about coming into the side for the next test.
Yeah, he's Azam Khan. I don't think he'll come in because, are you talking about the wicketkeeper who's Moin Khan's nephew, Azam Khan?
It
The,
could be. Maybe it's Moeen Khan's nephew then. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think he's a test player. I really don't see him coming in. But I think that they'll probably drop one of the seamers, and most probably they'll sack Shan. Whatever I'm hearing, Shan will be sacked, and they've already changed the selection committee. And Jason Gillespie, I just wonder what's going on through his mind. He was sitting in Australia, just drinking beer, whatever, and now he's at the helm of Pakistan cricket, the tsunami that never ends.
Because I remember him as a player. He used to have this really long hair, long black hair, and now you see him and he's got like short white hair. Do you think it's the job?
Yeah, might be.
But I, I don't know if I wonder if he was the right person to come into Pakistan, mentality wise. I wonder if he understood about Pakistan cricket, or he had his own kind of view of cricket and didn't really adjust. I don't know. I don't know enough really about what he did when he got there, but um, you kind of have to understand the culture of Pakistan cricket to excel there. I think.
I'm asking you a question. What
Yeah.
should you do to fix Pakistan cricket step by step? I know this won't be enough. This podcast won't be enough to cover all of it. But if you were to just give a briefing, how you would fix Pakistan cricket?
I mean, I think that's a difficult one. I mean, there's like an
It's
infrastructure.
hard.
Yeah, I mean, there'd be like two levels. There'd be like a long-term infrastructure thing where you say, for instance, don't play that one-day tournament just before a test series. You know, be a bit smarter there. That's like a small thing.
Niece
Have
could say that
board games.
though.
What?
My niece would say that just like you did it. It's Pakistan. They won't do it, but my niece could do that. Yeah.
So yeah, you do that. Also, you, I think that they change their selectors when different parties get in, don't they? So it's like the selector is like a political appointment. I
Everything
don't
is a
think that should be the
yeah.
case.
Yeah. I think personally what they should do is, well, if we are going to ignore Pakistani society and Asian society as a whole, because or maybe subcontinental society, because here people, most cricket teams are run by the governments. The
Mm,
BCCI is also run by BJP, but the thing is that with Pakistan cricket, that if a game does not go well, like if you see Pakistan's, if you go to the political scenario, there no prime minister has ever completed their tenure, and I think that reflects well in Pakistan cricket as well, because no, I don't think a chairman has ever served their entire 4 year tenure. No one.
mm,
Till Wasim Khan was there was some sort of stability in that unit, and I think if
yeah,
I were to fix Pakistan cricket, I'd first of all remove the church from the state, and then after that I'd make sure that, well, invest in the grassroots infrastructure and keep scouts everywhere, and make players and give clarity to players, like if I were to look in the short term, that you're going to be with me for 10 test matches or 15
yeah,
test matches, and you and we give you full backing to do whatever you want, and just work with them technically, like what era Babar Azam had. Just try to fix it with good coaches rather than just appointing $500,000 mentors, which are basically going to sit there and give haughty speeches. Uh, that I think if they were to do something like that, then there could be some sort of fix for Pakistan cricket. But I don't think it's happening anytime soon. Do you see Pakistan just being like this, or do you see them ever getting back to where they were, say, 20 years ago?
that's a great question because I, initially I just thought they'd be up and down, but it's looking a bit more now like a West Indies style decline in Test cricket for them, where they just continue to decline. Because I thought, you know, people they were a decent side. Talking, I mean, white ball wise, I mean, they can always they've won a T20 World Cup, they've lost the final, they've got to semis, but test wise in particular, they've been a bit up and down, but they have been good as well as bad. So it's not like it hasn't looked terminal. But recently, maybe the last 2 years, it has taken a real, to me, seemed to take a real turn for the worse. But
Yeah.
I don't see it in the same way as the West Indies test side, where you think they're never ever going to come back. This one seems a bit different. I think it's possible. Um, but do you think it's the fact that they can't play India? Do you think that affects them in a way that they're being strangled a bit financially?
I don't think they are honestly financially strangled, because PCB makes the third most money out of all the
Oh,
boards.
okay.
Yeah, because they have the PSL, and Pakistan's home base is also, there are a lot of fans in Pakistan, so that makes up for a lot of money. But yeah, I think Indian cricket, I think the worst thing that's happened to Pakistan cricket was the 2021 India Pakistan game in the T20 World Cup, because if you ask any Pakistani cricket fan, that they'll say the same thing, because what happened after that was that they got they got placed in a higher pedestal than what they were. And that was a young team, 25 year olds. Everyone was young and they were fit, agile, talented,
yeah,
but everyone was given lot of money, a lot of fame, and they thought they were kings. And what you do from that phase is go on and improve, because beating in India in a group stage game might be huge in the short term, but you
mm,
cannot keep on banking on that for your future.
no,
And
no,
that's what they did. That game was played out 50 times, 60 times for the entire year. And you see, after that, I think it was the Asia Cup again, the game versus India 1 year later, and they and that day, no, 2 years later, and they just fell apart in that game. And after that, I think the downfall has really started for them. So yeah, that game, I think, just being overconfident in themselves. And Ramiz Raja, I think when he was there in the
mm,
Pakistan series, in the last England versus Pakistan series in 2022, he prepared. He asked for them to prepare well, very flat pitches so that Babar could score 200s and all that. He wanted them to stat pad basically. And I
yeah.
think all of that combined, along with the mental stress that comes with being a Pakistan player, has led to this.
And do you think uh, there's this? Because I remember in the late '90s, England were in a similar situation, and there were all these theories going around. What do we do? What you know? Do we change the school system? Do we do the county structure? Blah blah blah. And in the end, all it took to recover was a good coach and a good captain working in unison, Fletcher and Hussein, and they managed to make a recovery. Um, and it was a similar way to maybe Ganguly and John Wright, but India didn't start at such a low base. But when Fletcher and Hussein took over, England were in a really bad way. But all it took was two good people working together with a sensible kind of criteria, sensible ideas, and being backed, and they did it. So I still think it's possible for Pakistan if they got things right with a coach and captain and found good ones that work together well. But like you say, you need to have faith shown in them to come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
I don't know how much money they lost after being in the having to play play abroad all the time. They went through a time where they couldn't play at home. I wonder if that had a big effect on them.
Yeah, I think they that had a big effect on them. And as you spoke of, I think Babar and Mickey Arthur in that little phase
Mm,
between 2020, like England, like Nasser Hussain and Uncle Fletcher,
yeah,
both of them were bonding really well. But I think with England, the difference was that there was no governmental interference every time. So when Pakistan was at a real high in 2022 or 2023, start of 2023, I think the politicians or the people in administration were scared that Baba was too powerful. So they
uh,
wanted to break his power, and they created groups in the dressing room by promising Shaheen captaincy, promising Rizwan captaincy, and that created a lot of angst between them, because before that they looked like a unit that wanted to win for their country. But after that, now they look like a group of people who just want to play for their own averages, for their own wickets, and for their own cumulative runs, and that can never be a good thing.
no. What's interesting is obviously there's been interference and some things aren't run well, etc. But that might have been the case a few years ago too. So why is it in the last 2 years in particular there's been such a steep decline? And I think that might be a question. Rob, it might not necessarily be like a big structural change needed or something. There might just be something within the last 2 years that's gone wrong.
Yeah, and you see Mohsin Naqvi when he came around, he was trying to do. I don't know if you follow it to that depth, but he says after every tournament, he
Mm.
says we'll have a surgery
Yeah,
2.0, surgery 3.0. I just don't know what that means, because
yeah.
every time you lose a tournament, you won't just change your entire domestic
No.
system. That does not work like that.
I remember Imran Khan changed the number of teams they had and based it on Australia. This was like four years ago or something, I think.
But
Was it
that does
four or
not.
5 years ago?
Yeah, he did that in the Qaeda-e-Azam Trophy, and now they are talking of just removing it overall. And I
Uh,
just don't understand how that works, because you have a working domestic system that has given them players on and on for around whatever 50, 60 years, and
yeah.
they're trying to change that. And I think that will be wrong for them. And yeah, I think for the past 2 years, it's just been first of all, there's a lot of, obviously, like there was a lot of focus on Babar Azam, the player, and I think that was something there. And just the administration. I think before him, Wasim Khan was really good, and before that, they had Misbah, Yunus Khan, Wahab Riaz. all of these guys carried them for a lot of time.
Yeah.
I think Pakistan cricket. We can go on and on discussing Pakistan cricket because there's a lot to unravel there. I think England deserves a shout out too for how they played in this Test match. And yeah, you. I think you could take over for Joe Root and Harry Brook.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're going to talk about Root in comparison to the other top players in a bit, but I mean, he's just proving himself to be England. Well, run-wise, he's overtaking Cook to be England's leading run scorer ever in Test cricket. The best England player I've seen. Now, I don't know if some of the guys in the past, like I don't know Wally Hammond or Sir Len Houghton or
James wins.
yeah, James Finch, yeah,
Yeah,
all these legends that,
yeah,
that I didn't see apart from Vince. I don't know if someone might have had a time machine and could see them. Maybe they were better, but definitely um, record-wise, he's the best I've seen, and he's comfortable against all types of bowling. He's comfortable against spin and seam. Got an array of shots as well, and he's also a good slip fielder and also can get the odd wicket as well. So he's been a brilliant player. Brooke Brooke really should be someone who is England's best player in all formats for the next decade. I think
yeah,
I think we both said this on Twitter. I think maybe other people agreed that he was disappointing in the summer just gone because he was too good to only have 100 in those 6 tests. Six tests? Yeah,
yeah.
it was 6 tests. He got 100 against the West Indies. Didn't do much else in the summer. Maybe got the odd 50, and he was
Yeah,
too good for that because he really should have been dominating those sides. Because I think the difference between him and Pope and him and Duckett and Crawley is big. I think he's someone who should be maybe not quite as good as Root, but aiming towards that level, or Kevin Peterson. So he should be the next standout player really, and there shouldn't be anyone that really touches him in the side. He's got everything. He just needs to needs to do what he did then. Because I think at the end of the summer, I was a bit worried because Sri Lanka were bowling this fifth stump line to him, and he started
yeah, yeah,
complaining to the umpire as if it was
yeah,
illegal. I couldn't believe it.
yeah,
I thought, what's going on here? And then
yeah.
Sri Lanka worked out how to get him out, and you thought, oh no, is he has he been worked out? And then I think the West Indies used the short ball against him with some effect as well. And I thought, there's a couple of areas here where he's a bit weaker than I thought. But luckily that was just the kind of aberration, I think, and he should be back to normal now.
Yeah, I was about to ask you that question exactly. That has he been worked out? Because Pakistan, I don't think that Pakistani pitchers are the best to judge a player's technique
But,
because even I'd score a century there and you
yeah,
as well. So
yeah,
I think that that's a bit of a concern. And next year when India come over, or do they have tests against New Zealand? Yeah, New Zealand. I think he may
New
be tested.
Zealand after this one.
Yeah, so he may be tested out there, and yeah, Root was just phenomenal as he always is, and I think we could move on from here to the next topic really
Okay.
well, which is about the Fab Four,
Yeah,
and first of all, I'd like to start with going in the past. Like if you had to name from not from this current player pool, but before that, four batters who were the Fab Four. I'll name mine
yeah.
after you.
In the whole history of the game,
Yeah,
and they go. They don't have to be playing at the same time.
no,
No.
just Fab Four past.
Uh, Bradman, even though I never saw him, and then I'd say, without doubt, Sachin and Lara. Um, they for me are the best two I've ever seen. And there's daylight between the rest. And then there'd be another one, and that could be a number of people. It could be Viv Richards, could be Ponting, could be Callis, could even be Root or Kohli. But I think the three at the top, without any doubt, for me, is Bradman, Tendulkar, and Lara. And the fourth one is kind of arguable. Um,
This
I
was
might just put Viv
I was
Richards
saying
there, maybe.
this was for the past, like not Kohli and Root.
Mm. Okay,
Preceding, yeah,
maybe I'll go for Richards then as the fourth one.
yeah. So if I had to choose four,
Mm.
it'd be Sachin Tendulkar, Don
Yeah,
Bradman, uh, A.B. de Villiers, and Lara. Yeah,
yeah,
so Tendulkar, Bradman, de Villiers, and Lara.
yeah.
Uh,
That's
and for the bowlers, who do you have? Past,
four of them.
yeah.
I think And it can be spinner and seamer.
Yeah, just anyone.
And definitely Warner Murley. There'd be two.
Yeah.
I think they were by far the two best spinners. And then the two fast bowlers. That's a good one. I might say Ambrose and McGrath myself.
Okay,
What
and
about you?
I'd go for Warren,
Yeah.
Dale Steyn,
Oh,
uh, Warren, Dale Steyn, and Sydney Barnes.
yeah. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
remember him, but his record's amazing.
yeah. You just have to put him in there. Like it's alien like.
Yeah.
And at number four, I'd have that's a tough one. I'd have uh, Murli. Yeah, I think Murli will be a good shout. So Warren, Steyn, Sydney Barnes, and Murli.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
And
So
but Barnes' record's amazing because I hadn't really seen him. I went for Ambrose and McGrath, but you're probably right with Sydney Barnes.
yeah, I just don't think that I have not seen. First of all, I have not seen Ambrose and Walsh bowl, and neither I have seen McGrath. So I don't think I can comment on that.
Yeah.
Neither can I comment on Sid Barnes, but you can't either. So I think
No.
it's a safe choice there. Um, I think fielding's one that's never discussed. And what would be your fielding fab for of the past?
Fielding. Well, growing up, it was like John T. Rhodes would have been one of them. Um, John T. Rhodes from South Africa.
Yeah,
Paul Collingwood was really good. I'm only thinking off
yeah,
the top of my head, but he was an excellent fielder. Um, well, I mean, if you're talking about just slip catching, Warren was very good, but not as
yeah,
as an outfielder or ground fielder.
yeah,
Mark Waugh was an excellent slip catcher as well. Dravid was a good slip catcher. But thinking of outfielding, there was a guy who used to play for Warwickshire called Trevor Penny. He was amazing, but
No, I don't know him.
yeah, but he he might have played the odd game for England, but he was an exceptional fielder. That was like his main strength. Nick Knight, I don't know, you'll see him as a commentator now, but he was a very good fielder. I don't think he'd be in the top four in the world. I'm just trying to think. And Michael Clark was a good fielder. I don't know if he's like in the top four ever. Let's see who else. Jadeja is a very good fielder.
Yeah, I
Again, I
think
don't know if he's in the top four ever, but he was excellent.
this was not ever. I think this was past.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think off the top of my head, I'll just go Collingwood, Rhodes, Jadeja. No, you could say a youngish Stokes, who was not only a very good slip fielder, but was also a good outfielder. But that's just off the top of my head. I'll probably think of more later. What about you?
Yeah, no, actually, I said past, not the players who are playing right now. So Jadeja and Stokes wouldn't fit into that criteria. Do you have two other ones for them?
Cole Hooper was a good fielder. I don't know if he's in the
Right.
top four. Um, oh, let's see. Um, I'll have to come back for the last two. I'll have Collingwood and Rhodes, and then think about the other two when you're doing yours.
Yeah, so mine would be Rhodes, Ponting, Mark Waugh, and and Jack Callis.
Yeah, I'll have Mark Poor and Jack Callison just for their slip fielding.
Yeah, because Mark Waugh was just phenomenal. Whatever I've
Yeah,
heard of him was that he dropped nothing. He
yeah,
took everything, and from now let's go on to present. So in the present we have the Fab Four of batting. Everyone knows that.
yeah.
The Fab Four of bowling at this present time for me would be Bumrah,
Hmm.
Cummins, Rabada, and and is there a fourth one right now? Is it Shaheen Shah Afridi? I don't
I
really
don't.
know.
I think that's debatable, isn't it? I think Boomer's obviously
Bolt,
there.
Trent Bolt, yeah.
Yeah. Is that recognised as the Fab Four of bowling then?
Yeah, I'm just trying to name Fab
Yeah.
Fours of all spectrums.
Yeah. Um, I rate Hazelwood higher than I rate Rabada myself, and even Bolt. I think I'd go Boomer, Hazelwood. And then there's the other two would be trickier to find two outstanding ones. There's a lot of good ones, but we could even have Cummings as well. Um, and, and
Shami is a
maybe
great shout.
Babada as well. And there's what? Sorry.
Shami is a great shout, I think.
Yeah, Shami is a good one. He maybe Shami then. You could go. You could have two from each, two from India and two from Australia.
Yeah, and that just sums up the title of our show, the Big Three. We just talk about that. The lesser nations will just will curse us for that reason. Uh, uh, for the fielding top four, I think it's pretty straightforward right now. I think it's Jadeja, Steve Smith,
Yeah.
Maxwell, and Glenn Phillips.
Oh,
So,
Phillips exceptional.
yeah,
Phillips is really exceptional. Yeah. Do you think Phillips is the best one?
I think Phillips is the best fielder I have seen. Probably AB de Villiers ranks somewhere near him, but yeah,
Mm.
Phillips definitely. And now on to the future, which is the really interesting one. The future Fab Four batters, which is the main conversation. So, what would be your future Fab Four batters?
I think Ravindra, Brook, Jaswell, and there's one other. Mendes from Sri Lanka, Kamadou Mendes.
Isn't
That
he
would be my
30
four.
though?
There's what? Sorry.
Isn't he 30 though? Or is he young?
He's young. The other Mendes is 30.
Oh,
30
all
odd.
right.
This is Kamadou, the new one.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, so he's fine.
Yeah, I was thinking more of three format players. So I'd go Jaswal, Brook,
Yeah.
Cameron Green, and Rachin Ravindra. Yeah,
Yeah.
these will be my four. And if I think there should be a Fab Five because I think Shubman Gill will be because India is trying to make him the poster boy of Indian cricket, and I think that he'll fit into the role after say Jaswal. He'd be the next one in line. For the
Yeah,
bowling,
maybe him then.
yeah, for the bowling, who do you have as your next Fab Four?
Well, it's a bit trickier, isn't it? I'm trying to think of the good fast bowlers coming through.
Yeah.
Now that's much trickier to find four standout ones. It's not. Oh,
You could just say Gus Atkinson, Gus Atkinson, Gus
yeah,
Atkinson.
I think for England it would be Gus Atkinson. I don't know if he would be the standout one though. This is the thing. The batsmen we mentioned, they're going to be standout batsmen, Jaswell
Yeah,
and Brook. I don't know if Atkinson will be a very good one, but I don't know if he'll be a standout bowler in the next few years.
yeah,
But even, now that's a tricky one. I could go for. I mean, England are hoping someone like Hull or Bashir will be, but I don't know about that. What about maybe Rourke from New Zealand? Well, I haven't seen much of him. Maybe he could be good.
yeah. Maybe,
Uh,
yeah.
you could go Rourke, Atkinson. Um,
We're just free balling here. Go with anyone you like.
yeah. It's hard to pick a kind of. I can't see anyone obviously. Oh, maybe Alzari Joseph from the West Indies.
Yeah, and one more.
Oh, can we still have Shah from Pakistan?
Who?
Can we still have Nazim Shah from
Yeah,
Pakistan?
you could
I'll have
definitely.
him then.
Yeah. So my
He's still
Fab
young.
Four of fast bowling would be then Naseem Shah. No, not Naseem Shah. Sorry, it would be Shamah Joseph.
Yeah.
Uh, from India, it would be Mayank Yadav. From
Oh yeah.
England, I don't think there's anyone from England. From
Yeah.
Australia, no. Oh yes, I'd have from South Africa. I'd have Nandre Burger, and from whom did you say Pakistan? Right? Yeah. So I'd have Naseem Shah. So Nandre Burger, Naseem Shah, Shamar Joseph, and who was the other one I talked of? Mayank Yadav. Yeah. This
Oh,
will be
that's a
my.
good one.
Yeah, I
And
think.
when I said Joseph, I meant the younger Joseph. So
Yeah, I was a bit confused there.
yeah. Not the 29-year-old one. He's too old to be an emerging star. Yeah. Yeah. So what about now? The big one is after Root's double century. Kind of people are kind of revisiting the debate about who was better between the Fab Four that emerged. That would what this discussion is really based on. when it was Williamson, Kohli, Root, and Steve Smith, and they were the Fab Four, and they actually became the Fab Four. So it was all the kind of hype about them was true, and they've all gone on to have excellent careers. They're all still playing. Out of the four, which one would you say has been the best?
In tests or all formats?
Both.
In tests, I would say that overall it's been, I'll say for overall and presently, overall it's been, for me, it's been Steve Smith overall
Mm,
in tests. And uh, and all formats, it would be Virat Kohli. And I think no one's going to doubt all format
no.
encompassing. And right now, I'd say in tests, Joe Root,
Mm,
obviously. And all formats, it will still be Virat Kohli. And I think that Joe Root's been really, really nice over the past years. But I think there's a lot of fire in Smith,
mm,
Williamson, and Kohli, because Williamson has 3 tests in India, and after that, three against England. So six
yeah.
tests for him. Kohli has 8 tests, and Smith has around 7 tests. So all of them have a pool of matches from where they can reinstate where they were. And I honestly see someone like Kohli or Williamson just getting there and thereabouts with Root after this season.
That's a good point. I mean, there's so much to compare when you look at all of them. They all have all played three formats to a lesser or greater extent. You're definitely right that Kohli's the best if you put all three formats together.
Yeah,
Um, because Root's a good one day player, and so is Williamson, and so is Smith, but they're not as good at international T20 anyway. I mean, Root was the leading run scorer in the 2016 T20 World Cup, I think, and maybe a bit unlucky to be dropped from that side. Smith, I don't think has ever been an amazing T20 player, and
yeah,
Williamson's a decent one, but much better at Test and 50, I would say. Um, but they've all played all formats. They've all captained their country.
yeah,
They've all done occasional bowling to a greater or lesser extent. They're all a very similar age, so that you can do a lot of comparisons about them. You can compare them as fielders, as batsmen, as bowlers, as white ball players, as red ball players. And so you could do a really good, it would be quite a good book actually, comparing them all. I'm like you. I think now, I think in a test match, Root is the best of those four right now.
yeah,
But there was a period of time where Steve Smith was just invincible,
yeah,
invincible in a way that Lara or Tendulkar was, in that sense where you just thought, I'm never going to get this guy out. Whereas as good as Root, Williamson, or Kohli have been or are, they didn't have that same invincibility that Steve Smith had. There was one 2019 Ashes was 2-2, and that could have been 4-0 to England without Smith. Smith was amazing. He'd get like 100 in each game, and in the end, England gave up trying to get him out. It was almost like he was batting with a tail when he was batting with like number 4 and 5. They just
yeah,
kept bowling wide outside his off stump or whatever. They just didn't think in the end they could get him. He was
yeah.
that kind of that aura of invincibility about him.
Yeah, he had alien-like hand-eye coordination,
Yeah,
which honestly just carried him from Bradmanesque, which was his level in Test cricket from 2014 to 2019. There was one innings which he played in Pune, 2017, first Test, and that innings just stands out to me as probably one of the best innings I've seen in Test cricket from a player, because that pitch was ragging, absolute. I think you saw the Ahmedabad pitch in 2021, that
yeah.
England game. So just double the spin, and you'll get the Pune pitch in 2017. That was how hard it was, and Smith got 177 on that without
Yeah,
any like flawless innings. And just seeing that, and then obviously he did really well in England. So for
yeah,
me, he stands out in that way. And he just, I think, as he's aging, and the sandpaper ban didn't help him, did it? I
yeah.
think if he wasn't banned in that period, he'd have got maybe 70 average. He'd have a 70 average right now. Yeah. So yeah, I think he fell off from that 2020 period where everyone except Root fell off, and then Root's just gone to a different level in tests after that. I think before the lockdown, Kohli and Smith were competing for tests, like who was better, but it was pretty clear that Smith was above him.
Yeah.
But after that, Kohli just fell off. So yeah, you're pretty correct there. That right now it would be Root, and overall it would be Smith. And what about all formats? Where would you rank all of them?
Um, so if you, I think the best 20 over player there is Kohli without any doubt. I'd
Yeah,
say now the best Test player there is Root, but it's very close. But I'd say right now Root.
Yeah,
But overall, probably Smith, like we said.
yeah,
The best 50 over there, I'd probably say is Kohli as well.
yeah. Kohli, I think he's the best 50 over player ever.
Yeah, that's a good. He could well be. I mean, if you look at because they were showing the number of test runs that Root had got, and he might probably be up by the end of the year be second on the all-time list, just below Sachin. But they also showed the number of international runs, and Kohli had a lot more international runs than when you put together the 2020 and 50 over runs he got.
Yeah, yeah. He's got around 14,000 runs in ODIs with a average of 60. So I think the main debate here was only of Test cricket, and I think that yeah, in that facet, Williamson. If I were to rank them, it'd be overall it'd be Smith, Root,
Yeah,
Kohli, and Williamson in Test
yeah,
cricket. In ODIs, it'd be Virat Kohli, Steve Smith, Joe Root, and Kane Williamson. And in T20s, it'd be Kohli,
yeah,
Root,
yeah,
Williamson, and Smith.
yeah.
And as
Smith,
as and as captains, I'm just rating everything like you said,
yeah,
captains and that. So it would be for me Virat, then Smith,
yeah,
Williamson, and
yeah,
Root.
yeah.
And as fielders, no, I think we should leave fielders alone. These metrics are okay.
Yeah, I think with the captaincy, it's interesting because th- they've all captained their country for a kind of a lengthy period. I think
Yeah.
as captain, Kohli and Williamson and Smith achieved more than Root, but Root wasn't a bad captain. I'm trying to think what he
Actually,
did.
not as bad as baseball makes him out to be.
Yeah, bloody hell. People now think, I don't know, cricket started in 2021 when England did a COVID tour of India and then
Yeah.
finished with a COVID tour of Australia. Um,
Yeah.
and that's where cricket started, and we've
Yeah.
never won a game before. And Root was terrible, and then it was like reinvented by baseball. But before that, Root had done quite well. He won in South Africa 3-1, which was a good series win. He beat
Yeah.
India 4-1, which was
Yeah.
pretty good. I mean, that's an excellent. I'd much rather beat India 4-1 in a Test series than win all these other series in a really exciting way. Like I don't know, uh, beat the West Indies going at 6 runs and over, beat Pakistan going at 6 runs and over. For me, a 4-1 win against India, it was a very good India side that had beaten Australia in Australia, with the likes of Kohli in it. I thought that was a really impressive result. 4-1 kind of flattered us a bit because they were all close matches, but that was a good achievement, I thought, from Root. He'd also beaten the sides that England had beaten under Baz as well. Like he beat Pakistan, he beat West Indies like they did, and I suppose he was the first captain though not to win a home match, as he drew his 1-2 all, so we didn't get to retain. Australia retained it, but he lost in India 3-1 rather than 4-1 like Stokes did. So
Yeah.
I think as a captain, he was fine. I think
Beat
the,
Sri Lanka 3-0-2.
yeah, exactly. He beat Sri Lanka 3-0, which is pretty good in Sri Lanka, and then he beat
Yeah.
them 2-0 as well.
Yeah.
His record is pretty decent. He beat South Africa at home and away, beat West Indies. I suppose he lost an away series to West Indies. I think he lost 2 to them, but won the home series.
Yeah. I think
Maybe
we could
that's a
do
weak.
an entire segment on busting the myth baseball, which we
Yeah,
could leave that for another episode because I've
yeah.
got a lot to say about this
In
and I
defense
don't
of
think
Joe Root, and yeah, it's true.
yeah, because honestly, whatever I've seen, the amount of people who just discredit Root as if he was the worst captain to ever grace humanity. That's not true. He wasn't that bad. Just because
No,
at the end of the COVID bubble, things got exaggerated a lot because
yeah,
they were playing India and Australia a lot,
yeah,
and obviously they played the most amount of Test cricket or the
yeah.
most amount of cricket overall.
And the thing is, that year, it's a bit unfair because they're comparing Baz winning against West Indies, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan, with Root starting off in India for 4 tests, then playing 2 home tests against a New Zealand side who at that point had become World Test champions or were about to, and then another 4 against India, who were the other World Test Championship finalists then, and then 5 in Australia under a COVID bubble as well. But even without the COVID bubble, 5 in Australia is difficult. So it's really unfair. Um, to compare, it's not comparing like for like, is it? So he's treated a bit harshly there. So I think he is a much better captain than people make out. But he
Also,
wasn't as good as a captain as Kohli or Williamson, who did a really good job with a less good side than Kohli had, or a less good side that Smith had. I think those three were very good captains.
yeah, another thing which people forget is that when Key came in, he gave Test cricket priority for English cricket,
Yes,
whereas when Root was captain, white
yep,
ball cricket was given priority, and
that's
players
right.
will, yeah,
That's a very good point. Root had to contend with that. In a way, it's like the reverse for Butler now. Butler doesn't have the priority given to one-day cricket that Morgan does, so he has to play lots of kind of second choice players. He'd rather have, he'd love to call on Wood, for example, say, but he can't because they prioritise him for Test cricket now. Whereas it could have been the other way around for Morgan. And like you say, during the India 21 away series, they'd won the first Test, and then Butler went home. Do you remember? and
yeah,
it
yeah.
and it's because they wanted to keep him fresh for, I don't know, maybe they wanted to
IPL
keep him fresh.
was the IPL.
Yeah, and it was like, well, that Root didn't have his best side at hand. Really, it wasn't his choice. So that was taken out of his hands. Whereas now, I think Stokes can get it whatever he wants in terms of selection,
Yeah,
which
so
is
I
the right
think
thing to do. I'm not criticising Stokes for that, but there was a priority given to the white ball side then that there isn't now.
Yeah, so I think the gist of this conversation is that
Mm,
when you throw around the stat 1 in 17, 1 in 17, which I've seen, like, I have to argue that out every single day. It's
yeah,
not as simple as just 1 in 17.
you
There's a
keep
lot of
saying
things.
it.
Yeah, it just because you throw a stat does not mean that it means a lot of things. Because like that, if you're going to just, I'll tell you a stat. Yasir Shah has more centuries in Australia than Joe Root. Does that mean that Yasir is a better? Does that mean
Yeah,
Yasir is a better batter than Root? No,
yeah,
right? So you
yeah,
cannot just,
exactly.
stats don't tell the entire story, and some English fans, they've just been like, they've been to my head, and honestly, please just back down. If you think that baseball is so great, then just wait around till next year when India come and when you tour Australia. That will be their litmus test.
That
Uh,
and if Bazball works in those series, then fair play. It has been a success, and well done to Baz. But you must judge it by that criteria, not the other series.
yeah, and like, how would you rate these four players, like the Fab Four, as white ball captains? Just just as we were in the topic.
Captain. Um, I think you'd say that. Well, I think you'd say Cody was the best one still, wouldn't you?
Yeah, yeah.
I think Root. I'm trying to think of the times when Root captained the whiteboard team. Did he do it that often?
No, I don't think he did much. I think he
No,
was for one or did he do captain the white ball side?
because he'd had Cook and then Morgan. So I don't think he never did it. He never did it permanently. I just wonder if there was the odd match here and there he did because of, I don't know, injury or something. But I can't think of one off the top of my head.
I don't
Um,
really remember either. So
no.
just Smith and Williamson, you can just rate them.
Yeah, I think. Well, Williamson was very close to winning a World Cup as a white ball captain. He couldn't get
World
closer
Cups.
really. So this, but he didn't win it. Whereas Smith and Kohli have won one. Although Smith wasn't, but when Kohli won it, he wasn't captain, and when Smith won it, I don't think he was captain, was he? I think it was Clark, wasn't he? Or
Yeah, I think neither of them have won a World Cup.
no, as captain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I I think I think Smith was actually quite good tactically. I think Kohli was very inspirational. I remember being at Lords. This is a test match for the second test
Yeah.
in about 2021, and it looked for all the world like it would be a draw. England should have were favourites at the beginning. Then there was a ninth and 10th wicket partnership by India, but it was lunch. It taken them to lunch on day 5, and you think, well, England should be able to bat this out. But he gave this kind of really ferocious team talk on the pitch, and it did seem
Yeah.
to really inspire the Indian team. England, I mean, Sibley, I know it's Sibley and Burns, but they looked a bit scared. They got out. It was like we lost the first 2 wickets in like the first couple of overs, and you could see motivationally, Kohli had done a really good job. Um, uh, what do you think of him tactically?
Kohli tactically, I think Rohit Sharma, like for that reason, he was replaced by Rohit in white ball cricket. He was not that astute as maybe say a Williamson or a Smith,
Yeah.
but yeah, inspirationally he was at the top, and that's why he was successful. Yeah, you're so correct. I think he does not rank that high tactically, or even I think as a man manager, also people there was some sort of rumors about him not being very approachable in that sense that he was a star in the team, so people didn't feel like they could go and talk up to him about their personal issues or something about their
Okay.
game. Yeah, so he was. I have heard a rumor, and I don't know if this is completely true or not, that he was very abusive after losses. So he used
Uh,
to just lash out on the dressing room. But I don't know if that's true or not. And in that period, Rohit was more of a big brother kind of person who they went around and he wrapped them in their arms and all of that. So
okay.
in that way, maybe he was not that great. But I think Ponting was that like that also. You don't always need a golden retriever as your captain.
No.
You sometimes can have a bit of ruthlessness and a bit of aggression, and that worked for him definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I think most importantly, when ranking the Fab Four, who was a better bowler?
Yeah, the meeting's about to end. I'll make another one. Just a sec.
Oh,
I'd rank it as Root. Obviously, Root is
hmm.
clearly the best bowler in there, and after that it'd be Smith, Williamson, and Kohli.
Yeah, I think so. It's impressive. Root's bowling is a bit more subtle than you would think for someone who's a part-time spinner. He's got
Yeah,
different variations. He got a wicket with a bouncer the other day, didn't he?
yeah,
Which broke Dockett's thumb. But he's got these variations. He's got 70 Test wickets, which is quite good.
yeah. He
He's got
could
a
be an
number.
all-rounder. He could have been an all-rounder according to me.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at some of the spinners England play, and they're not that great. You would have thought England could have picked four pace bowlers and had Root as the all-rounder when Stokes wasn't there. That is, because he could easily bowl you 10 to 12 overs a day without any problem. Like I say, 70 Test wickets. You think he's got a 30 or 40, 50 over wickets. I think he's got a few T20 ones. Smith's a funny one because he actually started as a leg spinner. I remember him as a spinner for Australia when he first came out. He played in an Ashes match as a leg spinner and didn't really do much. Then all of a sudden he's turned into like a great batsman. So his bowling must be he must be second on the list. I've seen Williamson get wickets before, and I've seen Kohli in his early years get the odd wicket, but he rarely bowls now, does he? Really?
Yeah.
Um,
If I had to like you said, Smith was really unexpected. Like he used to bat at number 10 or something like that. So him turning from there was something different. And Williamson, I think, got banned for his action or something like that.
yes, that rings a bell because I remember he was pretty useful with his off spin.
Yeah, he was banned around 2017 for chucking the ball.
Because I remember when Vaughan was talking about having him as a Yorkshire player, as a Yorkshire overseas player, and he said that when he was thinking he was advising Yorkshire to sign him, his off spin was part of the deal in a way that he wasn't just seen as a top batsman. The off spin was a genuine string to his bow. So maybe as he's got older and he's had injuries, hasn't he, as well? He's just bowling less.
Yeah, yeah. So let's wrap this segment up, this one, by saying who will be the best at the end of their careers, like overall, not just all formats. Who'd be the best? No, sorry, Test cricket, because all formats has already been Kohli. So Test cricket, who'd be after the end of their careers according to you in chronological order?
End of their careers, I think I'll go. It's gonna. They're all very good. So it sounds really harsh if you rank them, but just
Yeah,
end of the career, I'd probably say just for Test, Root, Smith, Kohli, Williamson. What about you?
yeah. So for me, it would be Smith because overall it's Smith and Root, Kohli, Williamson. I think it will remain like this because there's no way that and Williamson or Kohli can catch up to Root right now. I don't think there's a
And New
chance
Zealand
for
don't
that.
play enough Tests to do that anyway,
Yeah,
if you wanted to.
yeah, and I think I missed out on a player for South Africa which some South African people may get upset because Tristan Stubbs, I think he'll be a really great one in the
Oh
next.
yeah, no, he's brilliant. Yeah,
Yeah, I think he'll be an all format player and he's really good in ODIs and T20s and he has a solid technique. People are shying away from terming him the next AB de Villiers, but I think he can be one.
he's an excellent player. I agree with you there. That's
Yeah.
about him as well.
Yeah. So uh, now about the Women's World Cup, I think uh, it's been going
Yeah,
on, and
what are India's chances there? Because didn't they lose to the Kiwis?
yeah, we lost to the Kiwis, and after that we had a huge NRR blow because, and then we had a game against who was it? Bangladesh? No, Pakistan. Yeah,
Yeah,
Pakistan was there, and they scored around 106. And you'd imagine India to score, get that done within 15 overs, but
yeah,
they chased it in 19.4 overs, and that didn't help their net run rate. And yeah, so uh, I think Australia will qualify obviously for the
yeah.
finals, and the other two semi-finalists and India. I think India has a chance, and they'll go in there. We have a game against Australia tomorrow, and I think that will be a huge one at 7:30. And if
Mm,
India wins the game, India are guaranteed. India and Australia go through to the
mm.
semi-finals, and if India doesn't, then other results matter a lot. So
It looked like India's group was the harder one. India and Australia's group. I think England did well with their group.
England got away with the group a little bit.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
not. I think last time round, South Africa, England, India, Australia were the semi-finalists, and there was a
yeah.
surprise win for. I think Australia narrowly beat India, didn't they? And there was a surprise win for South Africa over England. Do you think it's going to be a similar bunch of semi-finalists this time round, or not?
Yeah, I think this time it will be the same. No difference
Okay.
because no one's there really. Sri Lanka looked like they could do something, but they just capitulated against India. So my winner for the World Cup would be India. I'll go for India because I want them to win the World Cup, and I'm biased here, but I don't care.
Because in here, all the like the headlines anyway were like, this is like Australia's women's cricket side. It's like one of the most dominant sides in sports, isn't it? But they
Yeah,
were saying
yeah,
this could be the time that they don't actually win a World Cup, like
yeah.
one of the few times that they don't.
Yeah, they were the
Make it to the
behemoths of
final.
women's cricket, like for example, America in basketball, like that.
Yeah,
They were just leaps and bounds over. You could pick their
yeah,
third team, and that they'd compete with the international level. And
yeah,
Elise Perry is the best women's player, according to me, that's ever played. We can say that, right?
yeah. It seems that way.
So I think that their team was obviously, but I think now the mighty are falling right now for Australia. Even now they are favorites, but not as much as they were say 4 years from today. Who's winning the World Cup for you?
I'm going to be biased and say England. uh,
So
just
we India England. So that's
yeah,
nice.
let's say that. Just because I'm just going on the fact that if people are saying this is the one World Cup that Australia might not win, then you would probably say the winner would be India or England, and I'll be biased and say England.
Yeah, so that's really nice. I think we've covered a lot of topics today, and it was a nice conversation.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
and if you have any question, you can send that to both of our Twitter handles, or the Big Three page in Twitter, which is the at the Big Three pod, and you can find a page there. And I think we can end the podcast now. We'll see you next Saturday.
Go on.
Yeah, I'll just stop recording.